watching Global Business Africa. Now, companies right around the world are switching up the traditional way in which business is done. And that's because many of their customers are going online for better, faster, more efficient transactions. Now, we know South Africa has seen a 25% year-on-year growth in the value of e-commerce transactions between 2017 and 2018. The country has a rather unique problem. The cost of data is just way too high. Now, while online transactions may be luring a growing number of customers, there's no denying that a significant amount of clientele, potential and actual, simply cannot afford to actually shop online. So then, let's find out exactly how this can be changed. Pontley is a director of Digital Plug. She joins us now live from Johannesburg with more on this story. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Let's start with Social Media Week in Joburg. In Durban, not Joburg. It took place not too long ago. What is your impression of the conversations, the ideas that came out of that?
Good evening to all the viewers and good evening to you as well, and thank you for having me on the show. Social Media Week was actually the second time happening in South Africa. For those who don't know, Social Media Week is actually quite a big experience and a global experience. So it happens in Nigeria, it happens in LA, it happens in New York. So for South Africa, we were quite happy to have it the second time around, as the first time it happened was, I think, in 2013. So with all the conversations that happened around Social Media Week, which was held in Durban, is how traditional has moved into the digital space and how most companies are emerging in all of that. You know, the conversations also happened around a lot of tech that is coming up, around the AI, the artificial intelligence, the geotagging, and how a lot of apps and search engines are tapping into making businesses a fruitful experience for the digital transformation as well.
Right, I'm going to get back to the data side of it in just a moment, but let's look at the big picture here, because some of the data that we've seen, 25% growth in the value of e-commerce transactions between 2017 and 2018, but there's a lot of untapped potential in e-commerce in South Africa. What's holding back online retail?
I think the one thing that a lot of people are very reluctant of in South Africa is that we just generally don't trust online shopping. And I think the online shopping comes from the payment methods, trusting brands as to how true brands are, selling themselves, and especially with the data costs as well. People are very reluctant to spend time searching for things that they like online and having to trust online shops as well, you know. So because it's a very new aspect into the digital transformation of South Africa, people are not sure where to go, you know. So people are very reluctant on social media as well, which is your Facebook, your Instagram and Twitter. And because those have always been conversational platforms for the South African economy, we don't know whether shopping online is the right thing to do, you know. With the e-commerce spaces that are booming, only now people are buying into the online shopping sprees, the online shopping space, and trying to grow their businesses as well from online. So even from traditional agencies or traditional businesses that have been in retail or have been very independent, they are then trying to explore the market and the audience that is online, because it is a bigger audience than your walk-ins that you have in your retail malls or your value centers or shops and anything of that nature.
What about the business side? I mean, when you talk to clients or clients walk into your door and you're trying to convince them, look, the future of your retail business is essentially online. Do they still struggle with that fear of the unknown, instead of trying to move out and say, okay, yes, there are things here we haven't figured out yet, but we'll try and see what works, we'll experiment, we might fail a bit, but there's a lot to learn here?
With the online side, because a lot of organizations and a lot of businesses have millennials in them, I think the millennials are the ones that are helping with the transformation and helping the Gen Zs as well understand what digital is all about. We should remember that traditional doesn't speak to millennials, and millennials are always trying to do things differently. So you do have businesses that are struggling online because they either don't understand the processes, they don't understand what the outcomes will be, what their returns will be. And as much as we have all the data that's come out, whether globally or in South Africa, it's just numbers to them. You know what I mean? A lot of people also want to see what the immediate returns would be. But it also takes a lot of understanding that digital is not really about the immediate. Digital is about the consumer journey. It's about dealing with the personas, the type of, you need to understand who your buyer personas are, who your audience is, and what you're really selling to them, and how people actually land on either your pages or your adverts, you know, how people click onto your websites or your social media pages and all of that. So it is a customer journey that needs to start from the beginning, and making sure that organizations know that you can't really jump on in the middle, you know, and you're building a house and you're just putting on the windows. You do need to understand what the base is of where digital comes from, why organizations are going into the digital space, and how we actually grow from it, you know. So
Right.
a lot are moving into the digital space, which is a good thing, and I'm happy with the emergence of how a lot of traditional agencies are also saying digital is the way to go, you know. So whether it's advertising, whether it's marketing, whether it's PR, everything is essentially moving into the digital world.
Right, one last question for you. Now that we're talking about the future of e-commerce, I'd like your thoughts on Facebook and its move into introducing Libra as a way of settling e-commerce transactions on its platforms, Facebook and Instagram as well. Because we both know in South Africa, in Kenya, there's a lot of informal transactions that happen over these platforms. But what are your thoughts on Facebook muscling into that sector?
I'm not too sure if I can trust the Facebook currency at the moment, but I know it is going under a lot of scrutiny right now, because it's a currency that's just come up. You know, we don't know where it comes from, we don't know why it's come up, but with Facebook being like the center of most social media platforms, you kind of just have the sense that they're trying to just centralize everything, you know, just make everything easy for the user. I mean, they did come up with Shopify as the e-commerce space and one of their shops that they use. Only now a lot of organizations and businesses are understanding what the e-commerce space is like, and because, like we said in our previous question, that the e-commerce space in South Africa is quite slow. So it will take a while for people to actually understand what the currency is about, why Facebook has started using that currency, and building the trust, essentially. It also speaks to trusting Facebook as a brand, seeing that Facebook has been breaching data policies and giving out user data to all these apps and all these people that want it. You know, it's easily accessible. So people then want to trust that if I'm going to use the Facebook currency, does that mean they can then tap into my business account or my personal account? Will the world soon find out how much I earn, how much money I'm making? So there's a lot of questions around it as to why it's there, how it's going to work, and how it's actually going to grow the economy of e-commerce altogether.
Indeed. I don't think I can find a better way of ending the interview. Thank you so much for your time this evening. Much appreciated. For a deeper look there into, of course, the business of e-commerce in South Africa.